On February 15th, 1947, a newborn baby boy was found in a clump of weeds at the Provo, Utah golf course by 3 boys. The boys called the police and an inquest was held into the baby's manner of death. The baby boy was described as being white or Caucasian, and according to NamUs, there were marks of violence on the body. According to in a news article that I read later that came from that year of 1947, it states that there were not marks of violence on the body, and I am actually more prone to believing the news article because there were some grammatical errors in the NamUs page. Either way, the physician ended up estimating that the baby had been in the water for 1 to 2 weeks. Police admitted that they had no clues, no leads, and unless someone came forward, the baby would remain unidentified. And unfortunately, in 2024, this child is still unidentified. Baby John Doe is listed on NamUs as, of course, having been white and Caucasian, but his remains were not recognizable and features were unknown. The NamUs profile was created on April 23rd, 2022, and he doesn't seem to be listed on the Doe network. There are no comparisons to his case on NamUs. There's very little information about this case, and even on the Utah Gov website's page, it's scant. It's very scant. I could only ever find one article that was for sure about this crime. It is from the Daily Herald, and it was posted on Whoa, what was that accent? On February 18th, 1947, the Daily Herald posted the article, "Coroner's Jury Finds Babe Met Felonious Death." The article stated that the baby was scheduled to be buried in Provo's Potter's Field that same day. I'm not sure what cemetery that would be in modern day. When I looked it up, I couldn't find an official Potter's Field or information on what would have been Potter's Field in that area back in 1947. I looked on Find a Grave, but I couldn't find anything that looked like Baby Doe's grave. I looked on Find a Grave, but I couldn't find anything about a Baby Doe. What I had looked for in particular was an unmarked or simply infant marked grave. I say this as somebody who has in person gone to cemeteries to take photos for people on Find a Grave, and when you come across gravestones for children, for newborns, they tend to just say infant. Sorry, it is a heavy topic. But I couldn't find anything like that on Find a Grave. Does that mean it doesn't exist? No. But, of course, that brings up the question to me as to what happened to this child's remains. Now, the article stated that the coroner's jury, ruled that the baby met his death by felonious means. An inquest was held that Monday afternoon into the death of the baby, whose body was found late that recent Saturday, of which he was floating in the Provo mill race at the golf course. A 3-man jury ruled a verdict that the child met their death feloniously, either by drowning or hemorrhage, caused through felonious intent by a person or persons unknown. The article stated that the case would more than likely go no further unless somebody or the people involved came forward, or if the doctors would have been able to find a clue. The testimony from that Monday came mostly from the 3 boys that found the baby and Dr. Fred Taylor, who had examined him. Dr. Taylor said that the body was well developed and there was no evidence of broken bones and apparently no marks of violence. He's quoted as having also stated, "I rather believe the mother had no medical aid," he told the jury. "My opinion is that the child was born alive, but I cannot be sure." The doctor said he couldn't state whether or not the death was caused by unlawful means, and he estimated that the baby had been in the water for 1 to 2 weeks. though he added that he didn't think an autopsy would add anything or reveal any extra clues. I have to, of course, as a reminder, state this was also 1947. Beyond this, there doesn't seem to be any more information known about this case. I have my own speculations and questions about this situation, though. My first question is, why would somebody dump the body of a newborn anywhere? Why would somebody just dump the body outside if the baby was even stillborn? No matter if the baby was stillborn or born with some sort of congenital disease, or perhaps even died of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. That doesn't justify dumping the body anywhere. I speculate that this baby may have been born out of wedlock and dumped there, or another theory. From the details in the article and from NamUs, I'm inclined to believe, really I believe more into this part, that the child may have been a victim of shaken baby syndrome. Shaken baby syndrome is a real and dangerous brain injury caused by forcefully shaking an infant or toddler. The Mayo Clinic states that it's known as abusive head trauma, shaken impact syndrome, inflicted head injury, or whiplash shaken infant syndrome. Shaken baby syndrome destroys a child's brain cells, preventing the baby from getting enough oxygen to their brain. This can lead to permanent brain damage or death. What's important to note is that you won't always see symptoms of physical injury to the child's outer body. Injuries, from what I understand, seem to be more internal. The Mayo Clinic states that injuries can be internal and include bleeding in the brain and eyes, spinal cord damage, and fractures of the ribs, skull, legs, and other bones. On the Mayo Clinic website, they state that shaken baby syndrome usually occurs when a parent or caregiver severely shakes a baby due to frustration or anger, often because the child won't stop crying. Babies have weak neck muscles and they are not able to support themselves. If you've ever had a baby or held one, you would probably know this or remember this. And so it's important that we hold our children and babies in general in specific ways that are protective to ensure that, their necks don't hurt them or their heads. Now, with shaken baby syndrome, if a child is a victim to this, their fragile brain will move back and forth inside the skull, causing bruising, swelling, and bleeding. This is something that we learned about when I was in school and college. We were actually required to take a child psychology course, to which I think it was very, very helpful, and I completely understand why it was necessary. The information still sticks with me today. The book stated the same exact thing the Mayo Clinic does, and it went into the reasons why it happens. Both my schooling and the Mayo Clinic have stated that the main reasons for shaken baby syndrome include tiredness and frustration from the parent, though of course that alone does not justify killing your children. Nothing does. Other risk factors for this include young parents, single parents, domestic violence, history of mistreatment of babies, and more. In one way or another, to me, it seems that the cycle of abuse, contributes to this. Going back to Baby Doe, I speculate that he may have been a victim of this, of shaken baby syndrome, as his body was dumped, like as if the perpetrators were embarrassed as to what they had done. To me, it just seems like they hurt him, accidentally killed him, and then dumped him somewhere just to forget about him. It was almost like as if they thought that disposing of him away from where they lived would have made the death somehow okay. The fact that the coroner had no real signs of violence, at least according to the news article, can point to the decomposition process potentially destroying any signs of abuse. If there were bruises, they would have been long gone due to the state of decay that his body was found in. Further, shaken baby syndrome would have been hard, I believe, to determine in an autopsy, at least in 1947, because this was before much of the technology we have today came around. I mean, I think back to Tate LaBianca in 1969, where much of the blood tests were only able to determine if it was animal blood or human blood. So, 1947, I don't know what an autopsy could have done. I do wonder, actually, if the coroner speculated if this was the cause of death, too. Unfortunately, there isn't much else to say about this scenario. There's not much more information out there. I'm unsure as to the state of and location of baby John Doe's remains. I'm unsure if any DNA has ever been submitted through NamUs's website.